Hey everyone, John here, and you and I are going to roleplay, okay? So, you're a guy, or a person, I was meant to say or a woman, but or a person works, who owns a Nintendo DS. So here is my Nintendo DS, and here is your Nintendo DS. But we've got a problem. Only I own a copy of Metroid Prime Hunters, so how are we going to play this dang thing? Well, in came our savior. Download Play. Download Play was a feature on the Nintendo DS from the home menu, where you could take compatible games and send small amounts of data to another DS to the point where they can just run the dang game. So usually it's like a map at a time or something like that, something very small. But it was super, super cool. Very convenient for games like Mario Kart. I used it a ton in Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, and it carried over to the 3DS, where Mario Kart 7 was a very big game for me and my wife. We'd play the battle mode again and again on our 3DS and our 2DS, and it just solved the problem of having to buy games multiple times just to play with each other. Now, I say Nintendo DS, this actually started with the Game Boy Advance. This system had multiplayer that spanned across single carts and multi-carts. So for games like Mario Kart Super Circuit, you could link together with one cart, and the same goes for Sonic Advance 3, but only for the battle mode, not the core co-op mode. But still, even with some limitations, this allowed you to play games together. And fast forward to today, that is not a thing. If you want to play Splatoon 3 with your buddy, they better own the dang game. Only Splatoon 1 has local co-op. There's no download play. There's no free version just to jump in with Splatoon 3. There's no local play in any capacity other than local wireless, which needs you to own another cartridge or a downloadable version. So, what if I told you there were a way that some Switch games allow you to just go on the eShop and pick up a free version of a premium game and then join your premium buddies with no extra cost? What if I told you that was a thing for multiple games? Well, strap in, because we're going to explore that, and we're jumping in first with Clubhouse Games. Now, one thing I always forget about the Switch is there's a secret mode. So like we have, handheld, we got like tabletop with the kickstand, we have docked. But there's also mosaic mode, where you take multiple Switches, ideally ones that aren't a light, just ideally ones that you can take the Joy-Con off and it's just a screen, and you put them together. And basically, the games will span across multiple screens. And Clubhouse Games is one of these. So the easiest way to do this is to have multiple Switches, but only one copy of the game, and you get the light version of Clubhouse Games that allows you to play everything as long as the premium version is hosting. So you can do local games, which is very good for card games because you can have your own hand without the other person seeing. But it also allows mosaic mode, so you can make your own stages and tanks. You can just sort of put your Switches together and make the tanks span across both systems, and that's super, super cool. But there's also games like Piano, where you can make a full-on full key piano. Like one system can have like the lighter keys, and the other system can have the deeper keys. And if you've got like more than two Switches, you can just get a full-on piano and have as many keys as you like. But it's super rad that it even works at all. And yeah, the light is not the ideal format for it, but it can work if you just sort of swipe like off the screen a little bit when transferring the little coin that links them. But yeah, Clubhouse Games is just such a great multiplayer one, and it's so nice to expand the capabilities, especially in the card games, but also in the mosaic modes, without having to pay for more copies of the game. So as long as you have one copy, but multiple Switches, you too can play not Uno, which is to say last card. And I think that is super, super rad. Now, one game that I think is severely underrated. In fact, you know this meme here? Do you know what they're reacting to in the board pose? Pac-Man Versus! One of the GameCube's coolest games, and that's what spawned this board template. The bottom one's Twilight Princess, but this... I'd be like this one if I were looking at Pac-Man Versus being revealed. But Pac-Man Versus is such a cool GameCube game, where basically the person on the Game Boy Advance is playing as Pac-Man, and the three controllers hooked up to the TV are the ghosts. And so it's like a very asymmetric experience on the GameCube, way before the Wii U. In a way, it's like the precursor to like Mario Chase and the Luigi's Mansion Nintendo Land game, but themed around Pac-Man, and it is so much fun. But as with all GameCube to Game Boy Advance link cable games, the barrier there is the link cable, but also needing to own a GameCube and a Game Boy Advance. So the situation to making that happen, while it's not as atrocious as some GBA to GameCube games, it just has one Game Boy Advance and not like 4 of them, it still limits it. Now, it was re-released on the DS in a Namco collection, but it was also re-released on the Switch in a Namco collection, and this version here is the exact GameCube game, but in HD. It even has the Charles Martinet Mario lines.
Ready?
Yeah, Mario is narrating Pac-Man. There he is. But yeah, in the Switch version, all you need is one person to own the Namco Museum, just one copy, and then any other Switch can link in and play as well. So as you can see here, we're basically getting the GameCube experience, but without needing a link cable, just through wireless and one copy of the game. And that's just super rad. And I think this is probably the best way to play Pac-Man vs. today, which is a very underrated game. Don't let the image fool you. This is a rad-as-flip game. Now, let's talk about 2 other games that are maybe a bit less exciting, but still very good in their own right. Wolfenstein Young Blood and It Takes Two. And It Takes Two in particular is a wonderful, wonderful game that everyone should play regardless of platform. I think the Switch version is very good if you have 2 people locally, because you can just have your own screens and cooperate together without needing to squint at a split screen while still being in the same room. It's just super convenient. But anyway, the gist with these 2 is when you buy a copy of the game, you also get gifted a guest copy, so you can just give it to someone else. There are free-to-play versions on the eShop that you can download, but you can't boot into the game without actually having, your guest authorization from the primary user. So there's not much to say about these 2, but it's very cool that you essentially just get an extra copy when you buy these games. Now, something that is a little bit more out there is Final Fantasy The Crystal Chronicles. There's a light version of this game, and it both doubles as a demo and also a download play version. So I believe in this version you get access to 3 dungeons, and you can just play them as you like. But if you've got a friend with a full version of Crystal Chronicles, you can just stay with them and play the entire game. So as long as you're connected to them, there's nothing to stop you from experiencing all of Crystal Chronicles, and that's super rad. One weird thing, though, is there's no local play that I could find, at least. I think it's online only, which is odd. Just for a Switch game, it's odd. I'd like to just locally connect to someone else, but I couldn't see an option. It's weird. And what I think is the final game is Super Mega Baseball. Now, the demo for this game, the 3rd game in particular, is weird, because it kind of like Crystal Chronicles, you get access to a bunch of stuff in the demo, but there's also access to online, and the only limit between the premium version and the demo version is you can't host games in the demo version. You can join online games, but you can't host any. So if you like, you can basically get everything out of the demo version. Of course, the premium version does have its benefits, being able to host being one of them. But you basically get a content-complete demo if you just want to play online, which is kind of the point of the game. Of course, the single player has merit, but I think most people are going to end up online anyway. So if you want to just play that game endlessly, you don't really need to buy it. But yes, if you have a friend who has the premium version, you can just play with them to your heart's content, which, cool. And we've gone through those pretty fast. So the games are Super Mega Baseball 3, Pac-Man vs. Final Fantasy The Crystal Chronicles, Wolfenstein Young Blood, It Takes Two, and Nintendo's very own Clubhouse games. It is something that I wish they did more in this generation, because there's definitely a bunch of games that would totally benefit from it, Splatoon being a very big one. But I somewhat get it. With download play and single cart play on Game Boy Advance and DS and 3DS, the file sizes were much smaller then. The GBA in particular, that was kilobytes. DS, megabytes. 3DS, still, I don't think any download play went to a gigabyte. I'm not sure that would even be possible from the system's limitations to download that temporarily. But regardless, what I'm trying to say here is games these days have ballooned in size, and even many of the smaller Switch games, it would be unfeasible to really just send that amount, which is why these games have a workaround of just downloading a free version off the eShop and blocking you from accessing it unless you're playing with someone else. But if that's what we have to do to let download play live on, then so be it. I wish more games would do it. I wish a bunch of shooters would do it. Yeah, we could even revive Nintendo Land through that method. It would definitely be tough to get multiple people with their Switches locally to play with you. It would make it a hard game to actually access, but if it exists in that capacity, then allow it to exist. I'd rather have that than not have it at all. But yeah, the gist of this video is download play does kind of exist on the Switch. And if you didn't know about some of these games, now you do. Now you can play Pac-Man Versus with anybody. Now you can play Final Fantasy The Crystal Chronicles with anybody, although it is not My Life as a King. So I don't know if you really want to. Because My Life as a King is like all the way up here. Like regular Crystal Chronicles, it's pretty good. But My Life as a King, one of the greats. Re-release it, Square. Anyway, thank you for watching all the way until the end, and because you did, it is hot take time. And my hot take today is, with the Switch successor, I think not only should download play come back, I said this about Street Pass too, but not only should download play come back, but there should be a twist, right? Like if you're on a train with somebody, and you both have your Switch successors in hand, I think you should be able to just force the game onto them. Like, kind of like a Street Pass. Like, they're in the middle of Zelda, right? And their game just abruptly stops while they enter your Splatoon match through download play. It might make them angry, but you're connected. It's the social experiment. Now you're friends. Maybe even now you're partners. See? Can you see the vision? I don't know where I'm going with this. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I love you all! Catch you next time. Bye-bye.